How we doing? This is Fox back again for sound design tutorials. Today I'm going to start the deconstruction of my Electro Track that I made using only Native Instruments Massive. In part one we're going to cover the main bass, which is a growly sort of gritty electro bass. There's two patches that make it up. This is the sound as a whole with both patches playing together. There you go, quite a gritty, growly sort of lovely electro bass. The pumping feel, what you got is from sidechain compression. The first patch we're going to be making is this one. This covers the mids to sort of the low mids to sort of the main mid part of the sound. This is it on its own. Okay, so that is it. I used 3 oscillators. 2 of them are basic analog oscillators. One of them is a modern talking one, which is where we get that gritty sort of growly sound. So yeah, I'm going to go ahead and initialize this. So oscillator 1, I use a modern talking, which is in the digital hybrid. Yep. I pitched it down 1 octave, -12. Pulled the intensity down to about 2 o'clock. Amp on full, route everything to filter 1. Put the filters in serial mode, even though I don't use any filters, I keep them both turned on. Always push that slider to the top. Keep the volume for both filters on maximum. Keep the mix all the way up to 1. Oscillator 2 is one of the basic waveforms. It's a sine square. Pull this pretty much all the way down to the left, so it's not quite a total sine, about 9 o'clock. Pitch this one down 1 octave as well. If you hold Alt and then drag down, does it in full octaves. Creating a bit of beef in the low end, although I do cut most of the low end out when I'm EQing this to make it sit well with the other patch. Oscillator 3 is a square saw wave, which it comes on as a default. Pull the volume of this down to about 1 o'clock. We don't want this to be the prominent sound, we want it to be mainly the other 2 oscillators. Saw wave, when it's pitched down, adds a nice bit of grit to a sound. We're going to pitch this one down 1 octave as well, -12. Okay, that's it for the oscillators. Nothing too untoward. As I say, I don't use any filters whatsoever. Just make sure they're both turned on so the signal's passing through both of them. Volume on both. Modulation oscillator I do use. I use it for phase of oscillator 2, and I'll pitch this down 1 octave as well. Bass patch, and pull the phase mix to about 10 o'clock. That's without and with. Just adds a bit of space to the sound, a bit of depth without adding more unison voices. Because it's a bass patch, it's a neat way of widening the sound but still keeping it nice and central. I don't use any noise or any feedback, so you can keep them unchecked. I don't use any insert effects on the bottom. The master envelope, which is envelope 1, I didn't do anything with again. It's quite lazy on this patch, but it must have done exactly what I wanted it to do. FX1 I did use a dimension expander. Pull the mix back to about 11. Keep the size where it is. This is without and with. Again, it's like giving it a little bit of unison without actually stacking voices on top of each other. Same thing again, I used a chorus ensemble for the second one. I like to use this on basses. A lot of people don't use a chorus on a bass. This helps thicken out the low end massively with a chorus ensemble. You can always EQ the bits out that you don't want to help it sit right in the mix. So again, dry wet about 11. sorry, yeah, dry wet about 11, rate, offset and depth, or how they come as standard. So this is without the chorus, and with. Really love a chorus ensemble on a mid-range bass like this. It really does help for sort of smudge it across the spectrum. Again, no, we don't use any new voicing, don't use anything, no unison, so it's all keeping it one voice, nice and mono, which is where you want the bass to sit. Bit of EQing, bass patch, boosting the low shelf, push the boost round just a tad in between 12 and 1. The frequency about 9 o'clock, high shelf exactly where it is. This is without the EQ, and with. Just need to change the routing around slightly. Click on these two B's so this orange line flows all the way through, and make sure it goes into FX1 first. These insert 1 and 2s doesn't matter, as we're not doing any insert effects and they're not interfering with the filter at all. So yeah, that's it. That's it for that patch, nice and straightforward. I called this one a high electro growl because both of them consisted together, made the growl. So yeah, that's it, nice and straightforward, that one. Piece of cake. So we'll go ahead and create the second one now, and then I'll show you what they sound like together as a pair at the end. So this is the second one. Sounds really growly. We're not getting that from the wavetable on this one. It's the formant sort of warp mode that we chose, and also the modulating the wavetable and the intensity as well. Bit more to this one. Bit of modulation using LFO 5 and 6, two different LFOs, doing two different things, different rates, same rates, just doing two different things. So yeah, we'll initialize this one. Say oscillator 1 is a rough math 3. This is a really neat wavetable to use for drum and bass, electro, any real bass heavy genres. I always go to this one. I know what it sounds like, I've used it many times in different patches. So yeah, pull it down 1 octave. Really bassy, gritty tones in this wavetable. You can see why I'm modulating this later on with an LFO. But for now, we'll keep it between 2 and 3 o'clock. And we'll pull the intensity all the way down, then just push it up slightly to about 7 o'clock. Keep the amp on full. Mix between filter 1 and 2. We'll push this to series mode on the filter. Make sure the mix is all the way to the top. And also bring the volume up for filter 2 as well. We'll set these up later on, but it's in series mode, so it flows from filter 1 to filter 2, and then the main mix is coming out of filter 1. Okay, oscillator 2, I change this to a sine square, one of the basic waveforms again. Same thing, same reason as the last one, just to boost the low end. Intensity on full, amp on full, keep the mix between filter 1 and 2. That clicking you can hear is from the sidechain compression. That's nothing we're doing inside the synth. I'll keep it on anyway, just so you can get that pumping feel. Okay, oscillator 3 is a square saw wave again. Use it for the main reason, exactly the same reason I did the last one, just had a bit of low grit. Keep it on 0 wavetable all the way around to a square this time. Intensity at full, amp just so you can hear a tiny little bit just above dead zero. Mix between filter 1 and 2. Modulation oscillator, this is interesting. I'll pitch this one down 2 octaves, something I very rarely do. Because the pitch of oscillator 2 is on 0, it's going to pitch it down 2 octaves. I use phase for 2, click it, turn it on, all the way around to maximum. Without. And with. Okay, no noise, no feedback again, so you can turn them off. Insert 1 we did use this time. We use a sine shaper. This is a form of distortion, just to help gritty this patch up a lot more than the mid one. This is taking care of the real deep bassy sort of part of the sound. So yeah, turn it on. Dry wet to about 11. Drive to about 10. Just check the routing again, same as last time. Click that top B so this orange line flows all the way through, and make sure it goes to FX1 first. Insert 1 wants to come after filter 1 where it is, and insert 2 needs to be in that box there. That's it, everything else is straightforward. So without the distortion, and with. That's adding a bit of raspiness to the sort of midsection of the sound. Insert 2 we use as well. I use a clipper, which is another form of distortion. It's like a hard clipper. Dry wet for this one, barely audible, tiny little bit, just 2 or 3 of those notches showing, and the drive about the same, both of them about 8 o'clock on a dial. Just adds a tiny, subtle more amount of distortion, something a bit different to the sine shaper. We've got a lot of modulation to do. Well, not a lot. We've got a bit of modulation to do in a bit with some LFOs, but we'll set the main effects up first. I use a chorus ensemble again. I explained what that did in the last one. It just helps widen the sound without actually adding any more voices. Dry wet to about 10 o'clock. Rate to in between 9 and 10. Dimension expander again. Different slots this time, they're doing exactly the same thing. Doesn't make a difference where you put them, as long as you get these settings right. If you want to make this exactly, I mean, you can see where I'm keeping the intensity on this one. I'm going to modulate with an LFO slightly. Just how I wanted the sound. You can see what a difference it makes if you play around with it yourself and have it set a lot higher up. You're drastically going to change the sound of the sound. So yeah, one thing we did forget to do is oscillator 1, I changed this to a formant. Very important this is. And this intensity, it's like the pitch of the formants in effect. The more to the left you go, the lower the formant, the lower the sound of that the mouth is making. Okay, dimension expander, dry wet 1 o'clock, size about 11 o'clock, bit of EQing again, pretty much same as the last one, boost in the low shelf, boost round to about 2 o'clock, frequency back to about 10, pull the high shelf back on this one as I say, because this is dealing with the really low part of the sound. Watch that clipping. Massive has a tendency to clip anytime you add any sort of distortion or any of these effects. You've got to really keep an eye on the master knob. You're going to have to keep pulling it down to make sure it doesn't flash into the red. Somebody pointed out the other day in one of my tutorials, I do forget to do this sometimes, and I'll deal with it in the volume in the lane. It's a simple thing to do. It doesn't really matter where you correct it. But yeah, see that red? Clipping, it is bad. Okay, that's it for the basic setup of the patch. In the voicing section again, I didn't touch nothing, keep it how it is as standard. In the oscillator section again, glide rate doesn't apply to this, keep it on equal if you want. I didn't do any form of gliding in this patch whatsoever. So yeah, we'll go ahead and set the LFOs now. Set 2 LFOs, 5 and 6, subtle differences. LFO 5 I use to modulate. If you drag this, drop it in the first modulation box for the wavetable position and the intensity of oscillator 1. Push it positive all the way to maximum for the wavetable position, and pull it negative all the way to the bottom for the formant intensity. The wave shape I chose is a triangle. It's the best to give it a pumping feel in my eyes. It's a definite up and down. This is going to go along to the beat with the sidechain compression. So yeah, internal envelope, double click it. If you double click it, it puts the decay the same as the attack, so it's a nice even triangle. We are going to sync it. I'm going to sync the rate to 1/2, so it's half a bar. That's without, with. Subtle bit of movement, it just helps give the sound a bit more movement. You can really go a bit drastic with this if you wanted to and beef the ratio up. We had it on 1/2. You could. Too much if it's too fast. 1/2 sit well, so it takes half a bar for it to do a cycle. Okay, we'll set the filters up now. Filter 1 I had as a bog standard low pass 2. We're going to modulate this with a different LFO, just to give us even more movement, and the LFO I did for that was LFO 6. So drag it, first modulation box for the cutoff, pull it all the way around to about 9 o'clock on a clock dial. LFO 6, I did the same. I set it to a triangle wave, internal decay thing, so it's a full triangle. Crossfade to the top, so you're only going to be using the triangle. Sync it, 1/2 again for the rate. The only thing different I did is I moved the phase so that it started exact opposite. So it started on a peak, went to a trough, and then back up to a peak again. Chocolate. So yeah, you can really hear that LFO swinging, cutting the high aspects of the down. It's all in time with the sidechain compression. Just ignore my missus coming in pinching my chocolate. Right. Yeah, filter 2 I had as a double notch. When you use a double notch, you're not going to hear that actually because the mix is all the way to 1, so we won't worry about that. Just forget it. So yeah, that is the sound done then. I did have a double notch filter on there, but there's no modulation on it, and the output mix with the filters is all the way to 1, so you're not going to hear it anyway. So it must have been something I tried and then didn't go along with. So yeah, that is that patch done. I've called this one the low electro growl. It's taking care of the low parts of the sound. I did a bit of EQing just to duck it out the way of other aspects in the sound. As again, same sidechain compression, real heavy. The LFO's doing a bit of it for us, but the sidechain compression to the kick helps it give us that nice pumping feel. So yeah, both patches together. Really pleased with how these come out actually. They do sit really nice together. Took me a little bit of while EQing them to get it to sit nice with the other aspects of the sound, because it's such, although they are bass patches, they fill quite a lot of the spectrum, as you can see on this. All the way up to about 4,000 hertz. This one, same, all the way up to 4,000 or 5,000 hertz. I'll play it with the rest of the track. There you go, nice vowly, growly electro bass. This is another project file that will be available to people if they want it. It's not as involved as the other ones, but if you want it, you can have it. You're going to get 5 bass patches, a stab and a chord sound that I made. I'm going to go through all of these one by one. This project file will be available, and you can download it directly through me via Dropbox at £10 British. If you want it, just email me at mrnfox22 mrnfox22@gmail.com, or tweet me at sounddesigntuts. There'll be a link in the description to my email and my Twitter page. So yeah, grab this project. You can do what you want with it. You get all the patches, you can mangle them, change them around, whatever you want. You get all the drum samples to keep for yourself, all these chord progressions and stuff that I make, all yours to keep. Thanks in advance if you do purchase this off me. The money is a big help. It helps me buy other synths and keep the missus off my back to get me keep me doing these tutorials. But yeah, for now, thanks for watching anyway. Check me out on Facebook and Google+. It's Sound Design Tutorials. Okay, cheers.